Hi again, grade 10s. So today we're factoring simple trinomials. Trinomial means there are three terms. So the expressions you're going to see today are going to have three terms. So something like this: x squared plus 5x plus 6. There's a lot of stuff I would show you if we were in class with algebra tiles on why we do what we're going to be doing, but I'm just going to get into the how we do it. So always remember that factoring is the opposite of expanding. So we want to remember how to expand first. So those are the examples on here first. So we're going to expand this first expression here. We have x plus 3 times 3x plus 1. So I'm going to multiply the first, the outside, the inside, and the last terms in each bracket. Then I'm going to collect my like terms. So I'm left with 3x squared in the front. I have a 10x in the middle and a positive 3 on the end. So that should be okay up to this point. We did that over a week ago now. Let's take a look at this question over here. So same thing, we're going to multiply the first terms in each bracket, which gives me a 4x squared. The outside terms give 4x, inside is 2x, and the last is just 2. And then collecting those middle terms, the like terms, I'm left with 6x in the middle and plus 2. So factoring is the opposite of expanding. So I just expanded, and now I'm going to show you how to factor and go the opposite way. So let's take a look at this question down here. So I want to add to this middle term. I want to find two numbers that add to the middle and multiply to the last. So you're going to see me make these little charts on the side. So we're going to add and multiply. So it's always add to 6 and then multiply to 5. So two numbers that multiply to 5. We can only think of 1 and 5. So I'm going to write that down, 1 times 5. Since 5 is a prime number, those are the only factors. And over here we have 1 plus 5. So I know that 1 times 5 is 5 and 1 plus 5 is 6. So I'm going to come over here and factor. It's called a simple trinomial, and simple trinomials have simple answers. We want it to look like two binomials being multiplied together. The term that goes first is going to be x, because if you think about expanding, I need an x times an x to give back that x squared. I'm going to now use the two factors I came up with over here. I'm going to have a positive 1 and a positive 5. So if I want to go and check my work, I can do that right underneath. I'm going to multiply x times x to give x squared. This is my check. I'm going to have x times 5, which is 5x. 1 times x, which is 1x, and 1 times 5, which is 5. And when we collect those terms together, we get our 6x. So that's how you can check your work. So let's try another one. We're going to do quite a few. We'll try this one over here. So I want to add to the middle term, which is 8, and multiply to 6. So think of two numbers that add to 8 and multiply to 6. It's always smart to start on the multiply side. We have 1 times 6, 2 times 3, and that's about it. So does anything work there? Does 1 times 6 give 6? It does. And 2 times 3, those are both good, but neither of those answers are going to add up to give 8, are they? 1 plus 6 is not going to work, and 2 plus 3 is not going to work. So this question is not factorable. Okay, so most of the questions, probably all the questions I give you, are going to work because we are practicing this skill, but this particular question is not factorable, so you can't go any further. Okay, so let's scoot over to this one. So this one is going to work. I know the answer already. So we're going to add to the 7 and multiply to 12. So two numbers that work. I'm going to start on the multiply side. I have 1 times 12, does not add to 7. I have 2 times 6, does not add to 7. But I know 3 times 4 works because 3 plus 4 does give 7. So for my answer, a simple trinomial has a simple answer. So I'm going to draw my brackets and I'm going to put a binomial, 2 terms in each bracket. So I'm going to start with an x in the front of each bracket because I know x times x gives x squared. And then I'm going to use the numbers that I came up with over here. I'm going to put my positive 3 in the first bracket and my positive 4 in the second. So remember, if you want to check your work, we're just going to expand. We'll have x times x gives back the x squared. X times 4 is 4x. 3 times x is 3x, and 3 times 4 is 12. And you collect your like terms, and this one works. Okay. So just down at the bottom here is just reminding you that factoring is the opposite of expanding. So again, I gave this sheet, I added it to the post so you can print it off and make sure you're following along. Let's go to the second page. We're a little bit crooked here. Okay, so we'll zoom in and we're going to try this one together. I'll probably do a couple of them with you and then leave the rest for you to try. And then on the third page is all practice, and I'll post a solutions or answer key tomorrow. So this one, we're going to add to 5 and multiply to 6. So 2 numbers that do the job. Think what multiplies to 6. I have 1 times 6. That adds to 5. Or that doesn't add to 5, rather. And I have 2 times 3, which does add to 5. So we're going to pick 2 times 3 over here. Okay? So simple trinomial has a simple answer. So I draw my brackets. I have an x in the front of each bracket, a positive 2, and a positive 3. I just realized this should be plus in the middle there. There we go. So you can always expand to check your work, but I'll leave that to you. Let's go to question B over here. So we have we're going to add to 7 and multiply to 10. So what multiplies to 10? We have 1 times 10. Is that going to add to 7? No. We have 2 times 5, and that will add to 7. 2 plus 5. So we have our brackets here. We're going to put an x in the front of each bracket, and then we'll have a positive 2 and a positive 5. Okay? And again, you can always check your work by expanding. Let's come down here for C. So letter C, we have adding this time to a negative number, so we're going to have to be careful of our signs, and multiplying to a positive 4. So to multiply to a positive, I can either have 2 positives or 2 negatives. So we need to be very careful because I see that we're adding to a negative 4. So we're going to pick the one that has 2 negative numbers, because negative 2 plus negative 2 gives negative 4. So we're going to have our brackets. Sorry, running out of space here. Let me try that again. Okay, so I'll start off to the side. So I have x in the front of each bracket, and now I'm going to put in a negative 2 and a negative 2. And if I want to simplify that further, since it's the same bracket, I can put negative 2 squared. Okay, and that one actually has a special name. It's called a perfect square trinomial. Okay, so just a little more information. Let's go over to this guy. So again, we're adding, make it a little bit bigger. We're going to add to negative 9 and multiply to 18. So a few more options here, but always start on the multiply side. So we have 1 times 18, we have 2 times 9, 3 times 6, 4, 5, doesn't work, and we're back at 6. But we're going to need to include some negatives on this one because we have this negative 9 over here. So numbers that are going to add to negative 9. So definitely not 1 and 18, whether either of them are negative. 2 and 9, probably 3 and 6. So if I have 3 times 6, that gives 18, but I'm going to need probably a negative 3 and a negative 6 to get to negative 9. So that means both of these need to be a negative as well. So we'll come over here and we're going to put our factors in. We're going to have x minus 3 and x minus 6, because we want to make sure that we add to negative 9 like we do and multiply to positive 18. So again, go ahead and FOIL, multiply your brackets out so that you can check your work if you need to. Okay, let's come down here. So I think I'm going to leave these two to you so you can try those, because I don't want my video to go too long. Okay, but I do want to come down to this one and try it before I have to go. So I can see that I have something common to each bracket, don't I? Or each term. I have a 2, 10, and 12. So that means I have a 2 that is common that I'm going to pull out first. So here I am common factoring like we did last week. So dividing all of the terms by 2. Does that look okay? So I'm going to leave my 2 in front here. Oops. I'm going to leave my 2 in front there. There we go. And now I want to add to negative 5 and multiply to negative 6. So careful here. We need to multiply to a negative number. So that means only one of our numbers can be positive. So I have 1 times 6 and 2 times 3. Those are my only options, but one of those numbers needs to be a negative. So let's see which one works. If I have a negative 1 and a positive 6, that won't work. That won't add to negative 5. But if I have a positive 1 and a negative 6, that will work. If I had chosen, be careful here, if I had chosen negative 2 and positive 3, that would equal a positive 1. And if I chose a negative 3 and a positive 2, that'd give negative 1. So this one's not going to work. So let's go plug in our values over here. So just be really careful on what ones you're picking. So we're going to have an x plus 1 and an x minus 6. How's that? Okay, so that's how we do our simple trinomial factoring, and then that one includes a common factor, and this one over here is also going to include a common factor. So I'll get you started with that one. Again, pulling out a common factor of 5, because I can see that 5 is common to all terms here. So I'll let you try this. I'll let you finish this one off on your own, but we'll pull out that 5 first, and this is what we're left with. 150 divided by 5, that's going to give me 30. So now I'm adding to negative 1. Careful there. And I'm going to multiply to the negative 30. Okay? So think of two numbers that are going to do the job. There's quite a few numbers that are going to multiply to 30, but one of them has to be a negative. So just to speed things up here, I know that it's going to be negative 6 times positive 5, because negative 6 plus 5 gives negative 1. So that one's going to work. So we'll leave the 5 out front. Make sure you don't drop it. It needs to be there. We'll put in our negative 6 here and our positive 5. Okay, so hopefully that went okay for you. And you followed along. Feel free to always ask me questions if you need to. Send me messages. You can see I didn't do these two in here because they're pretty much down there, just without the common factor. But go ahead and give them a try. The third page that is connected to this note is down here. So those are some questions that you can try, 15 questions there, and I will post an answer key for you tomorrow. Okay, hope everyone's well. Take care.